Morning. Thank you so much for joining us today for our registration webinar. My name is Elizabeth Morrison, and I am Associate Director for Advising here in the Office for Undergraduate Education. And before we get started, I want to take a moment to recognize the other wonderful team members from Advising that we have with us on the call today. We are joined by Kimber Clark, our Assistant Director in Advising. And then on the chat, we have 4 of our amazing advisors. Rebecca Rigo, Angela, Jasmine, and Cash are all here to help you out. So as Kimber and I are going along with our presentation, anything that comes up, any kind of questions that you have or points of clarification, go ahead and throw those in the chat and our team can help you out with those. Some of this information that we're going to talk about today will be familiar to you. This is kind of a refresher from information that you've seen probably in Emory Essentials, in your pre-registration advising chats, the wonderful resource that is the reference pages. But we know that this is the first time that you're going through registration. And of course, the first time you do anything, it can be kind of weird and confusing. So we wanted to make sure that we were holding some space today to kind of touch back on this information and again, give you some opportunities to ask some clarifying questions. All right, so let's take a look at what we are going to be covering today. We'll talk about the structure of the registration appointments and kind of how that works, how you might want to plan to prioritize your choices between day 1 and day 2 and 3 of your registration. You've probably heard this more than one time, but we'll go ahead and say it again, that registration is absolutely a process. It's a journey. It's not a one and done event. You're going to have more than one opportunity to get into Opus and make changes to your schedule. So talk a little bit about what that looks like. We'll talk a little bit about the wait list. What do you do if classes are closed? Looking at prerequisites on courses, and then we'll hear from Kimber about general education requirements, grading basis, and kind of some tips and tricks for keeping those schedules balanced. And then we'll also talk about some of the continued support and resources that we'll have here for you in advising, knowing that, like we say, this is a process. And so we just want to make sure that everyone knows how to reach out and ask for help during this process. All righty. So registration appointments. Let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So a registration appointment is when it's a window of time that's available to you to jump on Opus and start registering. And so your first registration appointment is going to be Monday, August 9th, starting at noon Eastern Standard Time. And so about 24 hours, you'll have access to Opus to get in and start making changes to your schedule. What you want to do is enroll for your first 8 hours during this time. And we'll talk a little bit later on with Kimber about how do you prioritize your first 8 hours. But they should generally be the classes that you want to make sure to try and get into during that first registration window. And then the next day, starting at noon on the 10th, you will also have another opportunity to go in to Opus and continue your registration process. And so this is where you'll be registering for your remaining credits, up to 19 hours. We do have some advice on that, about how many hours that you might want to actually aim for during your second registration window. We can talk about a little bit later. But this will hopefully kind of give you an idea of how these 2 different registration appointments work. And then the first week of classes, which is called Add Drop Swap, is a time that registration is open to everybody. So you'll have more opportunity during that first week to jump on and make more changes to your schedule. All right, so in between now and then, what should you be doing? Go ahead and continue to load up classes that you're interested in into your shopping carts. You're not committed to anything in your shopping cart. It's not that you have to register for those classes, but it's a good way to hold classes so they'll be there and ready for you when your registration window opens. You don't have to go back and go through that search process again. Some students will use some online scheduling resources like Courseicle or some other online platforms to kind of take all of these classes that you're loading up into your shopping cart and kind of map them out into different schedules. So whatever works for you, between now and then, go ahead and just continue looking for classes that are interesting to you. Maybe, you're thinking you want to major in history or econ, so you're going out to those department websites, checking out the classes that are required for majors and whether or not those have prerequisites that you can register for in your first semester. So like History 100 or Econ 101, for example, those would all be great things to load up into your cart. And if you want to, you can also take a moment to review our track advising webinars that are available on the New Student Programs website. So students who are thinking about a pre-professional track, a pre-business, pre-health, or if you're interested in learning more about the liberal arts, we do have some webinars that are available on the New Student Programs website as well that you can check out. They'll also give you some good ideas for what to plan to register for in the fall. Okay, so in terms of Opus Guides, and again, we know that this is the first time that you're going to be going through this process. By the time you're registering for your spring semester or your second year, you're going to be pros at this. But between now and then, definitely avail yourself of these different Opus Guides that we have available for you. Review them, at least once between now and Monday, just to kind of understand what that process actually looks like from the student side. So you can refer to the guides and Emory Essentials on your reference pages. There's a link to tutorials in your pre-registration advising information. And then if you go out to it.emory.edu, there's also a really kind of comprehensive listing of different tutorials that you can check out there as well. So load things up into your shopping cart, check out these Opus tutorials, and get ready to register on Monday. And so when you're in Opus, what you want to do is select your courses from the shopping cart, and you can find all of this under your course planning and enrollment tile. You need to validate your courses, which basically is like a kind of an eligibility check on those classes to make sure that you've met the prerequisites. For example, you're ready to register for them. And then if the class is open, want to make sure that it's open, go ahead and click yes to enroll. And then you'll start to see your classes populate on your schedule. It happens really quickly. It's kind of really satisfying to see your schedule start filling up that way. All right. So let's talk about how to prioritize the first 8 hours. So you generally will want to focus on the classes that are most interesting to you, that you're most kind of passionate about joining in the fall. And that looks different from student to student. So some students are really interested in taking a freshman seminar that just looks amazing to them. Or maybe you're thinking about doing a pre-med track, and so you want to get into a chemistry class. It totally depends. Some students will do a seminar, a general education requirement, for example, like your first year writing. And then depending on how many credits you have left after that, you could add your health class, you could add your ECS Emory Edge class, for example. However, it works out best for you in terms of what you're most interested in taking in the fall. That's what you want to focus on in your first 8 hours. And then in your second registration appointment that opens on Tuesday, you can again jump on and register for up to 19 hours. Okay, so that's how those work. And just a word about the waitlist, you may see that some classes have a waitlist function or waitlist option. And we recommend wait to waitlist, okay? Wait until you've registered for your schedule, your complete schedule, before you add yourself to any waitlists. It can be a very helpful function. It's a somewhat tricky process. There's kind of a lot to remember about how to do that. And so you'll be getting more information on the waitlist process from us on August 9th. But between now and then, all you really need to focus on is getting registered for your classes in the first and second registration window. Okay, so AP and IB scores. So some students are going to be using their AP and IB credits either as prerequisites or just simple credit. You do have until the end of your first semester here at Emory to make sure that all of those scores have been submitted and are posted to your transcripts. From there, you have until you have accrued 64 hours, which will generally be the end of your sophomore year, to kind of decide how you want to use those credits. So sometimes people's plans change. They decide to major in something different than they originally thought that they would. So you can go out to the admission website. There's a link there and let admissions know how you want to change those credits around. And in general, any previous credit questions, any AP/IB credit questions, our friends at admissions are the folks who can help you with that. So please don't hesitate to send them an email at admission.processing@emory.edu. And this year we know that, some of the tests and some of the scores are a little bit later than normal, and that is totally fine. If you were planning on using one of these test scores as a prerequisite for another class in the fall, you'll be getting more information from our office on, I believe, August 16th on the process for assistance in that registration. Okay. So some classes are just going to be full. So at Emory, as with many universities, the way the registration process is staged is that our fourth years will register first, and then third years, and then second years, and then our first year students. So some classes may indeed be full, and the best thing to do in that case is to wait until add-drop swap, go attend the class. You can kind of check it out, introduce yourself to the professor, and then we recommend sending them a polite email inquiring about how they handle requests to overload into their classes. So it does depend, professor to professor. So we definitely defer to them on that, but that is sort of a good tip for how to navigate classes that are just closed. But something else to kind of think about is have a backup plan, right? So always have a plan B just in case that doesn't work out. Okay, so some classes do have permission numbers, and so you would see that indicated in the class notes in the Atlas. And so if you do see something that says permission number, there will generally be information about how to follow up with either the faculty member or the department for that permission number. So keep an eye out for that. Just, before you get in and start registering on Monday, double check your classes, double check if one of them does have a permission number on it, and make sure that you've contacted the professor or the department, depending on the direction that's given in that course description, just to make sure that you're all set there before you register on Monday. Okay, and prerequisites, of course, are classes that you need to take first before progressing into another class. That information is also found in the course notes. So if there is a prerequisite, it'll be listed there. If you are thinking about using AP or IB credit to place into a class, or using it as a prerequisite, it should be posted in Opus for Opus to read that prerequisite. But again, this year, since we know that these postings are happening a little bit later, you will be getting information from us prior to add-drop swap on how we can help you do that if that situation does apply to you. All right. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kimber to take us through the first year requirements.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to have you all here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the nitty-gritty of our general education requirements and our first year requirements. And so hopefully by now you are familiar with this graphic, as we have presented it to you in multiple ways. But I do want to highlight a couple of things. So you'll see that there are 4 squares here in blue, and those ones that are in blue are actually going to be the ones that you do during your first year. So that includes your freshman seminar, your first year writing, your personal health, and your Emory Edge. Health and Emory Edge are both worth 1 credit, and they're both required for graduation, and you'll actually take both of these in the fall, as Elizabeth alluded to earlier. The seminar, your first year seminar, and your first year writing, these classes you will take during your first year. So you may take it in the fall, or you may take it in the spring. It's completely up to you how you choose to do that. But Health and Emory Edge in the fall, seminar and writing, a little bit more flexibility there. The remaining courses here that are in the white blocks, these are your the rest of your general education requirements that you'll do at some point during your time here at Emory. So you will likely do some of these during your first year, but please keep in mind that you do have time to spread these out. So don't feel like you have to rush to get all of these in during your first year. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that first year writing. So this class is required for all students unless you're bringing in AP or IB or previous college credits. So if you have credits for this that are posted onto your transcript and Opus, then you don't necessarily need to register for this class. So you would be exempt for this. And again, as I mentioned earlier, that first year writing, you can plan on taking that in the fall or the spring, whatever works best for your schedule. And the classes are labeled ENGRD 101 and CPLT 101. Those are your two options for your first year writing class. Okay. So this is our seminar, and we are very proud of our seminar here at Emory. This class is taught across all disciplines, and it's typically capped at 19 students, and it's really an opportunity for you to really engage with a faculty member in a specific topic area. We have a lot of exciting seminar courses being offered this semester, so make sure that you have multiple ones in your shopping cart in case that the one that you're interested in does fill up. They tend to fill up quickly. You'll take this one in the fall or the spring, and you just will do one. So if you do one in the fall, you're not going to do another one in the spring. So just keep an eye out for these very exciting and interesting classes, and make sure that you look for one that's motivating and interesting for you. Some of you may be interested in taking a language during your first year, and that is perfectly fine. The one thing that we want to make sure that you confirm with regard to the language is that if it has a placement test, that you go take the placement test. And so you will need to go to just the website for whatever language it is that you are interested in. So recommendation, just Google Spanish Emory Department or French Emory Department and follow the instructions on whether or not you need to take a placement test for that particular language. You've probably also seen in the graphic that we have the HAL and the HAP. And so the HAL refers to that language that I just discussed. And the HAP is our humanities, arts, and performance, which could also include additional languages. So the big part about it is that you will take 2 semesters of the same language, which will fulfill your HAL. And then after that, if you take an HAL at a 200 level or above, it can count for your HAP. Okay, so continued writing classes. So these continued writing classes are courses that you will take after you have done your first year writing. And you could take a continued writing this year, although you don't have to start in your first semester. These courses are worth 4 credits and can be fairly intense with lots of writing. So it may be that you want to look at doing that in your second semester out after you've gotten acclimated to Emory and kind of gotten accustomed to the academic rigor that is Emory. Again, continued writing classes like our seminars are taught across all disciplines. And so you definitely, if you're looking for a continued writing class, are going to want to find one that you're interested in. Some of our continued writing classes will be at a 300 level. So make sure that if you're unsure of the level, especially if it is a 300 level, that you confirm with the professor that this is an appropriate class for a first year student if you decide to take one this year. And again, you're going to be doing 3 of these, so you have time. Don't feel like you have to put one in your first semester or even your first year. You will have your entire time here to take these continued writing classes. And there are even some, once you declare a major, that will potentially fulfill major requirements as well. All right. So you've probably noticed that there are opportunities for taking classes as SU. However, during your first year, you probably won't be doing this. With the exception of our Emory Edge class, most of your classes are going to be taken as graded. A lot of these classes that you'll be taking as graded are fulfilling general education requirements and major requirements. And if you're not taking them as graded, then they can't fulfill those requirements, which is why we like to make sure that you understand that most of the classes that you're going to be taking are graded. You do have the opportunity, though, to take up to 20 credits as total as SU at some point during your Emory time, if you so choose. All right. So I know that I saw in the Q&A a little bit about how many credits to take and balancing that schedule. And so this is a really big thing for you to consider as you're planning your schedule. So as Elizabeth mentioned earlier, you're going to register for a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 19 this semester. That's your range. We recommend that you stick with that 15 to 17 range. You can go up to 19, but the 15 to 17 range really is going to give you the chance to, again, acclimate to college and to the academic rigor, kind of figure out what you're doing and getting your feet wet. If you register for 15 to 17 credits every semester, you're setting yourself up to finish in 4 years. So please don't feel like if you register for 15 to 17 that you're somehow behind because you haven't registered for 19, which is your maximum. 15 to 17 is perfectly reasonable, and we definitely encourage you to kind of stick with that range. As you're thinking about balancing your schedule, there's a couple of things that we want to highlight. You are going to want to be thinking about the entire week. So how does your schedule look throughout the week? You're going to want to be thinking about how your schedule looks throughout the day. So maybe you don't want to overload 1 or 2 days of the week so that you're in classes all day long. So you really want to think about that. You need to be factoring in all of the other things that you're going to be doing, like walking from one building to the next, or scheduling in a time for you to eat, or scheduling in time for you to go to the library or meet up with your roommate. So there are going to be all types of things that you're going to want to be considering as you plan that balanced schedule throughout the week and throughout the day. And then, of course, we definitely encourage you to balance your courses across the departments and the general education requirements. So, you're choosing classes that might fulfill a GER, you're choosing a class that might fulfill a potential major or minor, and then maybe you're choosing a class that is an exploratory or because you're just curious about it. And so having that balance can be very helpful for you as you make your way through your first semester. And then also thinking about if you're a science person or if you're a writing or humanities person, how you want that to be reflected in your schedule as well. So as we look ahead, which is coming up very quickly, it's hard to believe that we're already in August and that we're talking about the add-drop swap period. So you guys are going to start registering on Monday. And again, as Elizabeth mentioned previously, this is a process. And so after Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if your schedule still needs some adjusting, which it very likely will, you will have the opportunity to make those adjustments and drops and swaps during what we call our add-drop swap period. And this starts on August 23rd, and it will run through September 1st. And this is an opportunity for all students, not just first-year students, to continuously monitor Opus and to watch for movement to be happening, watching for students to drop or sections to open so that you're able to adjust your schedule accordingly. So that by September 1st, your schedule is something that you like, or at least something that you can live with. Keeping in mind that when you register on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, your schedule will probably look very different on September 1st. So just having that open mind and knowing that there are multiple times for you to continue making assessments of your schedule and making those changes. So we will be available for advising support. We certainly want to help you along this process. We know that it can be very overwhelming that first time. And so hopefully all of you attended a PRA meeting, and you will have the opportunity, if you so choose, to join in drop-in hours on this Sunday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. You received an email, I believe today, with information on how to access that Zoom room with your PRA. Keep in mind that these will likely not be one-on-one individual meetings with your PRA. And so just pop into the Zoom room when you can. And if you have any last minute questions, please feel free to join us. And then during registration on the 9th or the 11th from 10 to 2, we're going to be having drop-ins through our virtual reception desk. And again, this will be through Zoom. And then starting on Tuesday through September 1st, so Tuesday the 23rd through September 1st, we will be offering both in-person and online advising for students, in which you will be able to meet with one of our OUE advisors. All right, so that's our formal presentation for today, and we really look forward to having you here very soon. We are excited, and we know you're excited, and we're so happy to support you along this journey. So we look forward to having you on campus.
Yeah, and I would just say, just keep in mind that there are no throwaway classes in your first semester. Anything that you take this semester, even if you don't get the perfect schedule, it will all count towards graduation. So as long as you are kind of keeping in mind that 15 to 17 hour window, your 4 first-year requirement classes, and then a good mix of those in general education classes and exploratory classes, you will be in good shape. And please don't hesitate to come to any of the drop-in hours and continued support that Kimber mentioned. And let's take a look and see if there were any other questions that we might be able to help with here.
I was just looking, and our wonderful folks on the Q&A have done a great job of answering your questions, and no new ones have popped up. And we talked a little bit about some of them as well. So I think I'm feeling pretty good. I hope you all are too.
Yes, absolutely. So reach out to us if you have any other questions after this presentation. You can always email oue.advising. That's our general email address in our office. We'll be happy to help you. And we are so excited to welcome you to the Emory community. This is a big year. It's an exciting year, and we're so happy to be spending it with you. So everybody, good luck, be well, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.